Welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. My name is Malie, and today it's finally a little bit cooler. It's in the evening, so I'm going to have to apologize. We'll probably get the sounds of some kids screaming because everybody's out playing. But it's finally cool enough to do a project, and I actually got a package in the mail for something else that I'm going to plant. And it's some new dwarf irises. Now, it's mid-July, and anywhere between July and September is the best time to transplant and actually plant iris. So what I'm going to be doing is moving some of the iris around in my yard and planting some new ones. So let me show you the iris that I'm going to move, and we'll talk a little bit about how we're going to do this. So this is my side yard in the front, and right here we have 3 different irises. These are finished blooming except for this variety right here. This variety is, I think it's called Immortality. It's a white iris, gorgeous white iris, and I'll put a picture up above of what it looks like when it's blooming. But it's a rebloomer, and it will rebloom near the end of the year, kind of like near the end of August. But I'm going to be transplanting this, so I think what might end up happening is the rebloom will be delayed until next year. This is a purple and white striped iris. And this is a beautiful little purple iris. So like I said, I'll put a picture of what they look like. I'm not happy with the way this area looks. It looks like just a bunch of crowded iris to me. So I'm going to be splitting the white iris up into 3 different areas. I'll also split the purple dwarf iris up into 3 different areas. And then this blue and white iris will all go as one clump into another area. Then I have one other patch that I'm going to move, and I'll show you where that is. Now this little patch of iris is back here in the shade. It's kind of mixed in behind my gate with some of my butterfly bush that is never going to see the light of day again because it's tucked up behind all my other plants. But anyway, this little patch of iris is very special to me. This is a patch that I took out of my mom's yard. My mom was killed in a car accident in 2018, and a few years before she died, she had asked me to find the darkest purple iris I could find in the local area and put it in her yard for her. So I did that, and she absolutely loved it. And after she died, just before we sold her house, I dug this iris out. Didn't have any place to put it really, so it got stuck here. And it's been languishing in a shady area. It has bloomed, and I'll put a picture up of the bloom. And I'm going to put it into a more prominent area of my yard. So let me go show you where I'm going to move everything. Now my house is on a corner, and I've lined this area up with iris and daylilies, and it also used to have blue fescue, but not anymore. And I pulled out the iris that was here and there and gave it to friends because I really didn't like the color. So I'm going to put the purple and white iris right here, and I'm going to put some of the dwarf iris in front of it. I'm going to put one of the white iris, and one of the new irises that I purchased is going to go here. I'm going to go around this corner. And up in one of the open areas in this area, I'm going to put another dwarf iris and my dark purple iris from my mom's place. And then the white reblooming iris is going to go up here. And then I just purchased another dwarf bearded iris that is a rebloomer that will go in front of the white iris. So I'll have 2 rebloomers together. Before we get started, let's go look and see which irises I got. So here's the box of iris that I got. I got it from Shriner's Iris Gardens, and they packed this up beautifully. So it comes with this little grow book that tells you everything you need to know about your iris. Iris troubles, how to plant them, what to do, and all of that. It's really good information in there. We've got our packing slip. Tells you how many items, and I've got 3 dwarf iris in here. Then they packed them in this kind of grass type material. And they're just free in here, which is absolutely fine. Let's pull these out and show you what they look like. Now these rhizomes look absolutely gorgeous. They're thick and they're healthy. The roots are really nice. And you've got the little fan of leaves up here. Now the fact that the leaves are cut and they're dried on the top is no problem whatsoever. They've got a lot of stored energy here in the roots and in this little rhizome. Now this one is part of the reason why I decided to buy them. Look how pretty this is. This is called Prank. The little dwarf bearded iris are really early bloomers. They come between the daffodil bulbs and the regular iris bloom. So they're quite early, and they're about half the size of regular bearded iris. So we're going to get this beautiful little yellow bloom right before the regular iris. The next one is Baby Brune. It's white and purple and has little yellow beard on it. This one is going to be my rebloomer, so it's going to go in the middle of my front yard so it can rebloom at the end of the year. And this is another pretty one. Look at that. This is called Bright Blue Eyes. So it's going to have some yellow and blue and cream. That will be really pretty. Now let's go show you how we dig up the iris that we're going to dig up, and then we'll plant everything. Now I did some asking around, and this step isn't really necessary, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to soak these iris in a little bit of water while I'm digging up the other irises, just to hydrate the roots a little bit because it is so hot and dry lately. Matter of fact, I've actually had iris that I've dug up, thrown in my compost pile, come back 3 months later and found it still growing without any water or any soil. So irises are very, very tough. You don't really have to be really too careful with what you've dug up. Just don't chop up the rhizomes and separate them from the roots, because you will not really get roots again from the rhizomes if you've cut them in half. As far as I know, maybe you will, but I don't think that you will. So let's show you how I'm going to dig up these irises and separate them out. Now, if it were a little bit later in the year, or if these iris leaves were a little bit more tattered like they have been in the past, either from grasshoppers feeding or wind or whatever, I would cut the fans of leaves in half to conserve a little bit more of the water. But we're going to be transplanting them immediately, and we're going to water them well. So I'm not going to bother with cutting the leaves at this time. Okay, this is take 2. I have not watered this area very much. I have reduced my watering by quite a bit. I'm watering about once every 2 weeks. So the ground is pretty hard right now. So I'm going to switch to my favorite method of digging up iris, my little pickaxe. And I use the flat end. Just dig it in and pry up, and then work your way around. And don't cut your drip line. Now I've done myself a little bit of disservice. My drip line is shaped like this and right up against the edge of my iris, so I hope I have not really actually cut through my drip line. So now we've cut through a patch, not my drip line, thank heavens, but we've cut through a patch of this iris. You can see how, and hopefully you can see this, here is a division of iris. Let me tease it apart right here. Now this fan right here looks just like the one that I purchased, except for it's not cut. I can pull that leaf off there. And because it has all these nice roots, this fan will grow into a large plant within a couple of years. Here's another healthy grouping ready to plant. I cut through the roots a little bit on this side, but it's still going to grow really beautifully. You can see on this side that this was the original rhizome right here, and all the rest of this is just an offshoot of that one rhizome. Sorry for the mower sounds. This is the time of day everybody else is out. So this is where we're going to be planting the purple and white variegated iris. We're just going to plant it in the back a little bit. Then we're going to plant the little baby bright blue eyes right in front of it. We'll add a little bit of plant tone just so that it can have a little bit of fertilizer and see how well it does. Now I'm going to plant this back up against this tree a little bit because we're going to be cutting off some of the branches here, reducing this a little bit. Now this soil is pretty rich. This soil's been built up with countless applications of mulch and compost for quite a few years. So what I'm going to do is just put a little bit of fertilizer in here, just because. Mix that in. Then we'll take just this nice clump right here and just plant this. This will be plenty. I'm not going to need to plant the whole big clump. This will divide and grow back in beautifully by next year. So to plant iris, the one thing you want to make sure not to do is plant it too deeply. You don't want to plant it so that these rhizomes right here are buried. This part needs to be just barely underground. As you can see, it's got a lot of nice roots here that'll anchor it down. So bury the roots under the soil. Bring all of this in. Then I will water that in a little bit later and make sure it stays nice and well watered, and that will grow in beautifully. Now let's plant the dwarf iris. Now I changed my mind a little bit. I'm going to plant the baby blue eyes in another area. So this is my purple dwarf iris that I had on the other side. I'm going to plant this right here. And it's going to be planted exactly the same way, where I just bury the roots and make sure these areas are not buried. So there we go. One's planted in front of the other. Their colors will play off of each other in the spring, and I think this should be really nice. Now let's get the rest of this planted and I'll show you what it looks like in the end. Well, it's 8:30 p.m. and I was able to finish it. It took me about an hour, and I am hot and sweaty. It's still about 90 degrees, which is relatively cool considering what it has been. But I want to show you now where everything ended up. And I'll post pictures above of what everything looks like when it's in bloom. So let's start with the white ones and the dwarf purple ones that I just planted. So right here we have one clump of the white immortality with the purple dwarf bearded iris. Now the dwarf bearded iris blooms first, and then the white immortality is a little bit early and it comes right after that. But they do bloom together, and I'll show you the picture of that. Now also on this side, I have a mid-blooming iris, and I'll just show you a picture of it. I do not know the name of this one, unfortunately, but it's a really beautiful iris. And it overlaps with the white immortality. And then in this area of my yard, I decided to put a clump of the dwarf purple bearded iris. Right in the center here is going to be the white immortality. And then this is going to be, now white immortality is a rebloomer. So we're going to have a rebloomer on the right side, the left side, and in the middle of my yard, and that will be white. This is a dwarf bearded iris that's the baby brune, and this is also a rebloomer. So once that sets off and once this divides next year, I'll take off one of those and put it on the other side of the immortality. So we're going to have rebloomers on both sides of this one. Now it'll be interesting to see if they rebloom at the same time of year. I do not have experience with this one, so I don't know when it'll rebloom. The white immortality generally reblooms mid to the end of August. Now on either side of the white immortality, I have the same type of iris. This is the purple, and it's purple with white spots, and it's called Batik, I think. I'll put the name up on the screen in a picture. Then as we sweep over here, I put another dwarf iris. This one's going to be a nice spot of yellow. It's the only yellow iris I have with that beautiful little blue beard. This one's called Prank. This is my mom's dark purple one. And then I also have another semi-dwarf bearded iris. It's kind of a red color. I'll put the picture of it up on the screen. It's a really beautiful iris, and it's earlier than the other ones, but I think it's after the dwarf. So it will bloom in between the dwarf bearded iris and the rest of them. This one's a beautiful powder blue, and it's probably the best smelling iris that I have, but I have no idea what the name is. We put the other dwarf bearded iris here. This is the baby blue eyes. We put white immortality here, so this is on the corner of my property. We put another clump of the dwarf purple iris, and then this one is white with purple edging. And then at the end of my property over here, we have the same red variety as on the corner over there. So we just basically, as you go around my property, we just have lines of iris that bloom all at the same time, and that's right after the daffodils and before basically anything else starts blooming. So it'll go up to there, jump across the pathway. We're going to have a swoop here. Sorry for my shadow. Then we're going to have that dwarf clump here. Then we head over to the other side of my property, around my niece's car. And then we'll have the iris up this way. And then in between everything, just for a spot of color with the leaves, this also has a blue flower. This is the white variegated iris that I have dotted throughout my yard. So I have one here, a couple here, one up at the top here, and then another one hidden back there that I might need to move forward a little bit because it's getting eaten by the daylily, or maybe I'll just divide the daylily and make that clump a little smaller. So there we have it. My iris is divided, planted, and moved, and I'm excited to see next year's show. So I will definitely keep you updated on what it looks like next year. The little tiny clumps are going to be bigger. They definitely grow quite quickly. And for care of this iris, I watered them in really heavily today. I'll water them in it one more time tomorrow because tomorrow's Thursday. Thursday's my day to water anything that needs to be watered midweek, which is my hydrangeas, any of the really newly planted plants, and my strawberries. After that, I think I'll probably wait until Sunday to water it, and then I'll wait another week, and then after that, I'll just water it with the rest of my plants. As for fertilizer, I put fertilizer in the hole when I planted them, and that's all they're really going to need. In my yard, I never fertilize my iris, and they can get quite dry and not die and still flower. They're very, very easy to care for. Now, near the end of August, when the leaves start looking tattered, I'm going to cut them in half just to make them look a little bit neater. And then next spring, I'll just clean away the dead foliage and they'll start growing again. So that's all there is to iris, a very beautiful, easy growing plant that makes a beautiful statement in your yard. The other thing I love about iris is it brings back memories of my mom and my grandma. Iris have been around for generations. I've actually heard of people who are growing iris in their yards that have been grown by their grandparents and great-grandparents. I would love to hear your experiences with iris and possibly your favorite varieties, and if you maintain them a little bit different than I do. I really appreciate you watching my videos, and I hope if you like my videos and if they're helpful, you like, subscribe, share them with your friends, and go have a wonderful garden adventure.